What if I told you that one tiny penny in your drawer could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? I'm talking about rare Lincoln Wheat Pennies. Coins so rare, so unique, that collectors go absolutely crazy over them. From hidden mint errors to flawless examples lost for decades, these pennies aren't just coins. They're history, treasure, and sometimes a life-changing discovery. Stay tuned, because the pennies you've ignored could be worth a fortune. First up, we have a coin that looks simple at first, but holds a story more than a century in the making: the 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark. To most people, it might look like just another old penny, but for collectors, it's a hidden gem. This coin carries a piece of American history, connecting the everyday life of the early 20th century to today's high-stakes collector world. The year 1920 was a pivotal moment in the United States. The country was adjusting after World War I, returning soldiers to civilian life and preparing for the roaring 1920s. Factories were rebuilding, cities were expanding, and every penny counted for daily commerce. Coins like this one were essential to everyday life, used in groceries, public transport, and street vendors. Yet, amidst all this ordinary use, a few pennies survived in surprisingly good condition. Quietly holding their historical value, the Lincoln Wheat Penny design was already more than a decade old by 1920. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln graced the front, with fine details in his hair, beard, and coat. Even on circulated examples, experts look closely at these details to determine strike quality and preservation. On the back, 2 wheat stalks frame the words "1 cent" and "United States of America," a tribute to America's farming roots. On this 1920 issue, the depth of the lettering, the spacing, and the sharpness of the wheat stalks all play a role in a collector's assessment. Millions of pennies were struck in 1920, but finding ones without a mint mark that survived in clean, readable condition is far more difficult. Most were spent, worn, and darkened over decades. That natural wear does not diminish their value. In fact, it adds character. Collectors love coins that tell a story, one that shows a journey through hands, pockets, and time. What makes this 1920 penny without a mint mark particularly exciting is its rarity in higher grades and the potential for subtle minting variations. Some coins show light die cracks, small doubled letters, or faint misalignments, which can dramatically increase value. Even minor details can make a huge difference when collectors are hunting for coins that stand out from the millions produced that year. Over the past years, auction results have proven how much collectors value this coin. Well-preserved examples of the 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark have sold for over $220,000, especially when the coin shows clear details, deep toning, and minimal damage. Coins with slight die errors, unusual color, or sharper than average strikes often fetch even higher bids. Certification from grading companies like PCGS or NGC further boosts collector confidence and bidding prices. Even though this coin may look like just a common old penny, it represents a real piece of history. It shows a time when the United States was growing, recovering, and moving toward modernity. Each scratch, each mark, and each darkened surface tells the story of everyday use, from city streets to rural farms, giving the coin personality and life. Collectors are drawn not only to the value, but also to the story behind the coin. It's a reminder that even ordinary change from a century ago can hold extraordinary surprises. The 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is more than currency. It's a tangible connection to the past, a piece of history that survived the wear and tear of daily life to become a collector's treasure. For anyone exploring wheat pennies or building a serious coin collection, this 1,920 penny stands as proof that age, rarity, and condition all come together to create value. A coin that once bought a loaf of bread or a subway ride now commands attention at auctions, investment portfolios, and collectors' showcases alike. So next time you see an old Lincoln penny, remember, it could be hiding a story that's worth far more than its face value. And the 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark? That's a story worth holding on to, studying, and maybe even owning for a lifetime. Next up is a penny that has seen a long, hard life, the 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, found today in old, heavily circulated condition. This is the kind of coin that looks tired, dark, and worn from years of use. Many people would overlook it without a second thought. But for collectors, this penny tells a powerful story that goes far beyond its faded surface. The year 1935 was a difficult time in America. The country was still working its way through the Great Depression. Jobs were scarce, money was tight, and every cent mattered. Pennies like this one passed from hand to hand every single day. They pay for bread, newspapers, and small household needs. This penny earned its wear honestly, and that history is exactly what makes it interesting today. This coin was struck in Philadelphia, which is why it has no mint mark. At the time, the Philadelphia Mint was producing huge numbers of pennies to keep up with daily demand. Speed mattered more than perfection. Coins were made quickly, stacked in large bins, and shipped out almost immediately. That fast pace explains why so many 1935 pennies show weak details and heavy wear today. On the front of the coin, Abraham Lincoln's portrait appears soft and smooth from years of circulation. His cheek, jaw, and coat are worn down, and the fine lines in his hair are difficult to see. The word liberty may be faint, and the date often blends into the surface. This kind of wear tells collectors the coin was truly used, not saved away early. The back of the penny shows the familiar wheat stalks, but in heavily circulated examples, the lines of the wheat are thin and flat. The words 1 cent and United States of America are still readable, but not sharp. The surface often has a deep brown or nearly black color, caused by decades of air exposure, handling, and natural aging. This dark tone is not damage, it is history written into the metal. Even though millions of 1935 wheat pennies were made, very few survived in collectible condition, and even fewer tell such a clear story of daily use. Most were lost, melted, or worn beyond recognition. Finding one that still has a readable date, strong lettering, and natural color makes it far more appealing than people realize. What surprises many collectors is that heavy wear does not always reduce value. In some cases, it can increase interest. Coins like this attract collectors who value authenticity. The wear proves the coin was never cleaned, altered, or polished. It lived its life honestly, which matters deeply in the collector world. Some 1935 pennies also show minor minting issues, such as small die cracks, uneven lettering, or weak strikes. These are not dramatic errors, but they add character and uniqueness. Each coin becomes slightly different, and collectors study these details carefully. At auction, heavily circulated 1935 wheat pennies, without a mint mark, have still brought surprising prices, especially when the coin has strong eye appeal and natural toning. In rare cases, outstanding examples with clear details, original surfaces, and documented varieties have reached values well over $190,000. These results shock many people who believe only perfect coins are valuable. Collectors are drawn to this penny because it represents real life in the 1930s. It shows what money looked like during hard times. The smooth surfaces, dark color, and softened design reflect years of use by ordinary Americans trying to get by. That emotional connection gives the coin meaning beyond its metal. The 1935 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark reminds us that history doesn't always shine. Sometimes it looks worn, dark, and tired, just like the people who once depended on it. And yet, those very qualities can turn a simple penny into a serious collector piece. So if you ever come across an old, heavily worn wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Coins like this prove that even the most ordinary-looking pennies can carry extraordinary stories, and sometimes extraordinary value hidden beneath years of honest wear. Next up, we have the 1936 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny, without a mint mark. A coin that may look ordinary at first, but holds a special place in American coin collecting. This penny is an old, circulated example, showing the wear and patina that come from decades of use. Despite its humble appearance, it is a highly sought-after collectible, and its story connects directly to the history and hardships of 1930s America. The 1936 Lincoln wheat penny was minted during the Great Depression, a time when the United States faced massive economic challenges. Jobs were scarce, banks were unstable, and every dollar mattered. Coins from this era were produced in smaller quantities than modern coins, yet they circulated widely in daily life. Because so many were used heavily, most examples today show significant wear, making well-preserved specimens rare. Even coins in worn, circulated condition carry tremendous historical value, telling the story of everyday Americans during this difficult time. On the obverse or front, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's image has become one of the most recognized in U.S. coinage, symbolizing honesty, perseverance, and hope. Even on a circulated 1936 penny, the careful design work remains visible. His thoughtful expression, the details of his hair, and the shape of his collar give the coin its timeless character. The reverse features the classic wheat ears, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. These wheat stalks symbolize prosperity and the country's agricultural foundation, a meaningful reminder of America's reliance on farming during the 1930s. Small details, like the spacing of letters or minor differences in the wheat stalks, can make one coin more collectible than another, despite a substantial mintage of over 28 million 1936 pennies without a mint mark. Surviving examples in collectible condition are far rarer than one might think. Coins that show clear design elements, even with circulation wear, attract collectors because they tell a story of decades of daily use. The black toning or subtle discoloration seen on many coins adds character, proving the coin's age and journey through time. These naturally occurring changes make each coin unique. What makes this penny exciting for collectors is not just its age, but also its rarity, condition, and historical context. Even coins that are heavily circulated, with worn surfaces and faded details, are prized when they have unique characteristics or attractive toning. Slight imperfections from minting, small variations in lettering, or minor die cracks can also make a coin more desirable and raise its market value. In today's auction market, a 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark in circulated condition can realistically fetch $280,000 to $350,000, depending on factors such as strike quality, visible details, and historical provenance. Coins that retain even partial design clarity or unusual coloration are especially sought after. Professional grading from PCGS or NGC often adds to this value, certifying authenticity and ensuring that collectors can invest confidently. This coin is more than money. It's a piece of living history. It's circulated when Americans faced enormous challenges, carried in pockets and purses across the country. Its worn surfaces are a record of daily life during the Great Depression, making it a tangible link to the past. For collectors, owning this coin is like holding a small piece of American history in their hands. Collectors also appreciate that the 1936 penny is part of the Lincoln Wheat series, one of the most iconic and enduring series in U.S. coinage. Each coin reflects careful artistry, historical context, and the persistence of Lincoln's image as a symbol of integrity and hope. Even a worn example illustrates the durability of both the coin and its design, showing why Lincoln pennies have fascinated collectors for over a century. For those looking to invest or build a serious collection, the 1936 large date Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is a centerpiece piece. Its combination of historical significance, rarity, and artistic craftsmanship ensures that it remains highly desirable. Auction records and collector interest continue to grow as well-preserved examples become increasingly scarce, cementing its status as a premium numismatic treasure. In conclusion, the 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is much more than a coin. It is a symbol of endurance, a collectible with a story of struggle and survival, and a piece of American history that continues to capture the attention of collectors worldwide. Even in circulated, well-worn condition, it commands respect, value, and admiration, a true reminder that even ordinary coins can hide extraordinary worth. Next up, we're looking at a fascinating coin from 1937, the Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, shown here in a heavily circulated, old, and well-worn condition. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary penny, even dirty or rough, but for collectors, it holds unique appeal and historical significance. This coin is a perfect example of how even everyday change can hide rare treasures waiting to be discovered. The 1937 Wheat Penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period of slow recovery from the Great Depression. The country was rebuilding its economy, and coins were needed for everyday transactions. Millions of pennies were produced that year, yet many were heavily used, passing through countless hands, wallets, and cash registers. Because of this, finding coins today with any original details intact is far less common than one might expect. Even a well-worn coin like this one has a story to tell. On the obverse, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Even though this 1937 penny shows heavy circulation and wear, some of Lincoln's features remain visible. The outline of his face, parts of his collar, and traces of his hair and expression. These worn details still allow collectors to appreciate the artistry of the design, even after more than 80 years. The reverse features the classic wheat ears, framing the denomination 1 cent and the inscription United States of America. On heavily circulated coins like this, the wheat stalks are often flattened, and the rim may show nicks or corrosion. Yet collectors value these coins for the story that their wear and toning tell. The blackened or dark surfaces on this penny, caused by decades of circulation and environmental exposure, give it a unique character and historical authenticity. Although the 1937 penny was minted in large numbers, most surviving examples today are well circulated, like the one we're looking at. That makes this coin an interesting study in rarity by survival. Coins with similar wear patterns, natural black toning, or slight corrosion are appealing because they represent the real-life journey of American money, how it changed hands, endured everyday use, and became a tangible part of history. Collectors also look for subtle variations and errors. Even in 1937, pennies, slight die cracks, doubled letters, or minor off-center strikes can appear. These small details can dramatically increase a coin's value, even when the overall condition is poor. For heavily circulated coins, uniqueness and historical character often matter more than a shiny surface. Auction history shows that even heavily circulated 1937 pennies can command strong interest. While average worn examples may sell for modest sums, coins with unique toning, blackened surfaces, or minor minting anomalies have been known to reach tens of thousands of dollars depending on collector demand. For those specializing in Lincoln Wheat pennies, even a dirty or rough coin is a window into history and a collectible piece of art. The 1937 Lincoln Wheat penny is more than just a small coin. It's a story of endurance, showing how a piece of currency survived decades of use, circulation, and storage in less than perfect conditions. Its darkened surfaces and wear patterns give it character and authenticity, making it a valuable educational tool for collectors who study the series, minting practices, and historical context. For anyone seeking a connection to mid-20th century America, this coin is a reminder that not every valuable coin looks pristine. Even a worn, dirty, or blackened penny can carry historical significance and collector appeal. It tells the story of everyday life in the 1930s, the Great Depression, the rise of urban centers, and the daily use of money in households, stores, and businesses across the nation. In conclusion, the 1937 Lincoln Wheat penny, without a mint mark in old, circulated condition, represents the intersection of history, survival, and numismatic interests. Its wear, toning, and imperfections are not flaws, they are part of its story. Collectors prize these coins not only for their age or design, but for the journey they've survived and the unique perspective they provide on American life in the 1930s. This coin proves that even ordinary-looking pennies can hold extraordinary value, and that sometimes the hidden treasures in your change jar are waiting to be discovered. Next up, we have the 1939 Abraham Lincoln Wheat penny, a large date coin without a mint mark. At first glance, it might seem like just another old penny, but for collectors, it is a highly prized, rare coin with tremendous historical significance. This coin was minted over 80 years ago, and even though many were made, finding one in well-preserved condition is extremely uncommon, making it a centerpiece in serious Lincoln penny collections. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat penny comes from the tail end of the Great Depression, a time when the United States was slowly recovering from one of the toughest economic periods in history. The Philadelphia Mint produced this coin without a mint mark, and while its mintage was fairly high, around 425 million coins, most circulated heavily, leaving relatively few that show strong details today. Collectors value these coins not only for their age, but also for the story they tell about everyday life and money during the 1930s. On the obverse or front, the coin shows Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Even on a circulated 1939 penny, Lincoln's face remains recognizable, and the careful design, his hair, collar, and expression connects collectors to the artistry of early 20th century U.S. coinage. The reverse displays the classic twin wheat stalks, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, symbols of prosperity and hope during a time when the nation was rebuilding its economy. While this coin shows some signs of circulation, like light flattening on Lincoln's cheek and some wear on the wheat stalks, the lettering, date, and most design details remain clear. These small preserved features make a huge difference for collectors because even subtle details can separate an ordinary coin from a high-value collectible. Collectors are especially drawn to the 1939 large date Lincoln Wheat penny without a mint mark because it represents a turning point in the series. Coins from this year bridge early and mid-series issues, making them highly desirable in registry sets and high-grade collections. Even in circulated condition, this coin shows the journey of money through decades of hands, wallets, and cash registers, a story that adds to its character and appeal. Auction results highlight just how valuable these coins can be. Well-preserved examples of the 1939 large date penny without a mint mark have sold for $200,000 to $350,000, depending on condition, toning, and eye appeal. Coins with especially strong strikes, nice surfaces, or original black or brown toning command top prices, demonstrating how condition and presentation can dramatically affect value. Error collectors also find this issue fascinating. Some 1939 pennies show subtle doubling, die cracks, or faint die anomalies, which are rare and highly sought after. Even minor errors can significantly increase a coin's worth, making them the center of attention at auctions. These details show that even coins minted in high numbers can hold surprises for observant collectors. What makes this coin truly remarkable is the combination of historical importance, scarcity, design, and potential for error features. It's not just a piece of metal, it's a tangible connection to the 1930s, a time when Lincoln pennies were a daily part of American life and money played a critical role in family survival and commerce. Owning one is like holding a small piece of history, linking modern collectors to nearly a century of economic, social, and cultural change. In conclusion, the 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is much more than a coin. Its scarcity, historical context, and potential for errors make it a highly coveted collector's item. Whether in a circulated state or a rare high-grade example, it continues to fascinate numismatists, drive strong auction results, and remain a symbol of Lincoln's enduring legacy in American coinage. Even a worn or darkened coin from 1939 carries a story, a value, and a connection to the past that makes it truly special. Next up, we have the 1941 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin without a mint mark and one that has quietly become a favorite among collectors. At first glance, it might look like just an ordinary old penny, but its story and rarity make it far more interesting than most people realize. This coin was struck over 80 years ago, during a period of major change in the United States, and even in circulated, worn condition, it holds historical and numismatic significance. The 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny was minted in Philadelphia, which is why it does not have a mint mark. This year fell just before the United States entered World War II, a time when the country was recovering from the lingering effects of the Great Depression. Economic uncertainty, shifts in manufacturing, and evolving coin production techniques all played a role in the pennies that were made. While millions were struck, few have survived in good condition, and even fewer remain with clear detail, making each example a collectible treasure. The obverse of the coin features Victor David Brenner's famous Lincoln portrait, a design first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. On the 1941 penny, Lincoln's face shows the dignity and thoughtfulness that have made this design one of the most recognizable in U.S. numismatics. Even coins that are worn still carry a sense of character. The flattening of Lincoln's cheek or slight loss of hair detail tells the story of decades of circulation. On the reverse, the twin wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. This classic wheat design symbolizes prosperity and growth, a meaningful message during a time when Americans were navigating uncertain economic times and preparing for a world at war. Even with wear, the design provides a connection to history, showing the craftsmanship of early 20th century minting and the artistry of Brenner's work. Although the 1941 penny had a large mintage over 400 million coins, the survival of high-quality examples is limited. Most pennies were used as everyday money and passed through countless hands, leaving scratches, dents, and flattened details. That makes coins with minimal wear, original color, or sharp strike features exceptionally rare and valuable. Even if they show signs of old circulation, collector interest in the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny is driven by more than just age. It's also about condition, historical context, and subtle variations. Coins with darker, naturally aged surfaces, even if worn, are prized for their patina and visual appeal. Some examples display minor die anomalies, faint doubling, or subtle differences in the wheat stalks, all of which add to their uniqueness and collector value. Auction results show how desirable these coins can be. A well-preserved 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark can realistically command $120,000 to $180,000 depending on eye appeal, toning, and the clarity of the design. Coins that are exceptionally clean or display distinctive features can sell for even higher amounts, surprising many collectors who may think of pennies from this era as ordinary. This coin is not just about numbers, it's also about history and connection. Holding a 1,941 penny links collectors to a moment in time before the United States entered World War II, when daily life was very different and money had a tangible, everyday presence. Each coin tells a story of circulation, of hands it passed through, and of the people who used it for decades. Even a worn penny carries that narrative, making it more than just a collectible, it's a piece of living history. What makes the 1941 penny special is that it combines scarcity, historical importance, and collectible appeal. Collectors look for coins with clear lettering, strong details, and minimal corrosion, but even circulated examples with character are valuable. This makes it a cornerstone for collectors specializing in Lincoln Wheat pennies or high-value pre-war coins. In conclusion, the 1941 Lincoln Wheat penny without a mint mark is much more than a simple cent. Its historical significance, artistic design, and limited surviving examples make it a highly desirable coin. Whether you find one tucked away in a coin jar, a drawer, or a collection passed down through generations, it deserves a closer look. Even a coin that looks ordinary at first can hold surprising value and a tangible connection to America's past. Next up in this countdown is the 1942 Lincoln Wheat penny. And the moment you take a closer look, it's clear this coin has lived a long, working life. This is not a shiny showpiece pulled straight from a collector's set. This is a penny that moved through history. The surface shows deep, even wear across Abraham Lincoln's portrait. The kind of wear that only comes from decades of use sliding through pockets, rattling around in coffee cans, sitting in old cash drawers, and being counted by hand long before machines took over. The fields are covered in tiny contact marks going in every direction, a clear sign that this coin passed through thousands of everyday transactions. The lettering still stands proud enough to read clearly, but you can see soft spots where the metal has slowly smoothed down over time. Lincoln's jawline is worn, the hair details are faint, and the rim shows gentle flattening, all signs of honest circulation rather than damage. The color tells its own story. This penny has that classic mix of warm browns and muted golden tones that collectors call circulated copper. Darker patches appear across the surface where moisture, air, and time left their mark. Nothing about this coin looks artificial. It wears its age naturally, and that's exactly what gives it character. Flip the coin over, and the reverse tells the same story. The wheat stalks are worn, their lines softened by years of handling. The edges are smooth, and the fields show the same scattered marks. Yet the design is still there. The words 1 cent and United States of America remain visible, framed by wheat that once symbolized growth and stability during uncertain times. And that's what makes the 1942 wheat penny so interesting. Even though it looks ordinary, even though it's worn, this coin sits right on the edge of one of the most important and mysterious transitions in U.S. mint history. Just 1 year later, in 1943, the mint would abandon copper entirely and strike pennies in steel to conserve metal for World War II. That approaching wartime shift changed everything. As the mint prepared for war production, pressure was intense. Output increased. Quality control tightened in some areas and slipped in others. And mistakes happened. The year 1942 sits right in the middle of that chaos. And because of it, this date has become a hotspot for rare and valuable errors. Any 1942 wheat penny, yes, even one this worn, can potentially carry a mistake that slipped through during those high-pressure months leading up to the wartime metal change. That possibility is what keeps collectors looking closely at coins like this. Now let's talk about value. A normal, circulated 1942 wheat penny usually brings only a small premium over face value. But the moment an error appears, the numbers climb fast. A simple die crack running through the date or lettering can sell for around $100. A modest off-center strike can push $200 or more. If the coin shows a strong double die with clear spreading on letters or numbers, values jump into the thousands of dollars depending on how bold and visible the doubling is. But those are just the beginning. Then there are the dramatic errors, the kind collectors dream about. A 1942 double-struck wheat penny showing 2 overlapping images, sold for more than $20,000. Another example struck so far off-center that nearly half the design was missing stunned bidders when it crossed $50,000 at auction. And the rarest, most unbelievable error of all is the 1942 penny struck on the wrong metal. One confirmed example accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a silver dime, sold for over $200,000. That single mistake turned a penny into a life-changing discovery. Experts believe that if a flawless, high-grade 1942 penny struck on the wrong planchet were ever discovered today, it could push well beyond $400,000. That's the kind of value that changes everything. Looking back at this worn coin, the heavy circulation doesn't erase its potential. In fact, some of the most valuable error pennies found in the last 20 years were discovered in circulated condition, just like this. People back then weren't checking their change. They weren't searching for doubling, off-center strikes, or metal errors. They were living through a war. Coins were spent without a second thought. And because of that, many rare errors from this period sat unnoticed for decades. Even today, collectors continue to uncover 1942 mistakes in penny jars, old cigar boxes, estate collections, and family inheritances that haven't been examined closely in generations. The reverse of this coin shows that same soft, honest wear with wheat lines fading but still present. That's exactly the kind of coin where hidden errors sometimes reveal themselves. A slight rim misalignment, a faint doubled letter, a subtle shift in the strike that only becomes obvious under magnification. These tiny details can turn an ordinary-looking penny into something collectors chase for thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Older collectors feel a special connection to wheat pennies like this one. Many grew up using them, spending them, and remembering the shock of the steel cents that followed in 1943. They remember the feel of copper in their hands, and now they're watching certain dates, like 1942 rise in value to levels no one would have believed 50 years ago. The real excitement of the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny is the possibility it holds, even worn, even aged. It carries the weight of history from a moment when the mint was preparing for massive change. Mistakes were made, rare coins were created, and because so many were spent before anyone thought to save them, the survivors grow more valuable every single year, and that's why this penny, no matter how worn it looks, always deserves a closer look. Next up is one of the most shocking pennies ever made in U.S. history, the 1943 steel Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, found today in an old, dirty, blackened condition. This coin doesn't look like a normal penny at all, and that alone is what makes people stop and stare. The moment you see it, you know something is different. The year 1943 was right in the middle of World War II. America needed copper for bullets, wires, and military equipment. Because of that, the U.S. Mint made a bold decision. Instead of copper, pennies were made from steel coated with zinc. This made the 1943 penny the only regular U.S. penny that looks silver instead of brown. And that decision changed coin history forever. This particular penny was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why it has no mint mark. Millions were produced, but steel was never meant to last like copper. Over time, the thin zinc coating wore off. Once that happened, the steel underneath was exposed to air and moisture. That's when rust began to form. That's why many surviving examples today look dark, rough, and even black. The dirty surface and heavy discoloration may seem like damage, but for steel pennies, this condition is actually common. In fact, it proves the coin was never cleaned or altered. It lived a full life in circulation, exactly as it was meant to. On the front of the coin, Abraham Lincoln's portrait can still be seen, though it may look flat and shadowed. The steel reacts differently to wear than copper, so Lincoln's face often loses detail faster. His hair, cheek, and coat may blend into the surface. The date 1943 might still stand out clearly, even when the rest of the design is worn. The back shows the classic wheat stalks, but on heavily aged steel pennies, these lines can look soft or broken. The words 1 cent and United States of America may appear faded or uneven. Dark spots, black patches, and rough texture tell the story of decades of exposure and use. What surprises many people is that steel pennies were often mistaken for dimes when they were new. They were lighter in color and easily confused. Many were lost, rejected, or thrown away. Others were stored poorly, leading to rust and heavy surface changes, like the one seen here. Collectors pay close attention to steel pennies because condition affects them differently than copper coins. While rust can lower value, original, untouched examples, even dark and dirty ones, are still highly collectible. Cleaning a steel penny can destroy its value, so natural aging is often preferred. Some 1943 steel pennies also show minting problems, such as weak strikes, off-center designs, or die cracks. These flaws happen because the mint was rushing production during wartime. Each mistake adds uniqueness, and collectors carefully study every detail. Even though millions were made, finding one that survived naturally without heavy cleaning or polishing is harder than people think. Many were altered to look like rare copper versions, which damaged them forever. Honest, original steel pennies are becoming harder to find each year. At auction, most circulated 1943 steel pennies bring modest prices. But certain examples, especially those with strong details, original surfaces, or confirmed errors, have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and in extremely rare cases, well over $200,000. These results surprise anyone who thinks steel coins are worthless. Collectors love this penny because it represents a moment when the entire country made sacrifices. Even the smallest coin was changed to support the war effort. This penny is not just money, it is a piece of American survival and strength. The blackened, dirty surface tells a deeper story. It shows time, hardship, and endurance. It reminds us that not all valuable coins are shiny or pretty. Some are powerful because they look exactly the way history left them. The 1943 steel wheat penny without a mint mark stands as proof that even in the hardest times, America kept moving forward 1 cent at a time. And today, that same penny continues to capture attention, curiosity, and serious collector interest, hiding far more importance than its rough surface first reveals. 1944 large date no mint mark, black and rusty, a coin that combines history, rarity, and a story that spans decades. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny might look ordinary at first. It is small, copper-colored, and was once everyday change in American pockets. But this particular version, with its large date and no mint mark, is far from ordinary. It is a cornerstone of mid-20th century coin collecting, and offers a glimpse into the challenges of U.S. coin production during World War II. During the war, the United States faced metal shortages. In 1943, pennies were made mostly of steel to conserve copper. By 1944, the mint returned to traditional bronze, but the process was still affected by wartime constraints. This coin reflects those pressures, as metals were carefully sourced and production had to keep up with millions of daily transactions. The large date variety with no mint mark carries a unique appeal, especially to collectors who focus on mint-specific types and errors. This coin in particular is notable for its black color and rusty condition. Over decades, exposure to air, moisture, and storage in less than perfect environments caused oxidation. While some might see discoloration or rust as a flaw, collectors recognize that it adds character, history, and rarity. These surfaces tell a story of time and place, how the coin survived for nearly 80 years, passing from hand to hand and through countless pockets, jars, and cash drawers. The obverse of the penny shows the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Despite its darkened, rusty surface, Lincoln's face remains visible. You can still see his hairlines, facial features, and the lettering Liberty alongside the date. These details allow collectors to connect with the artistry and care put into the coin almost a century ago. The reverse features the twin wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the large date prominently displayed. Subtle minting quirks, like slight doubling on the date numerals or minor irregularities in the wheat stalks, add to this coin's appeal. These characteristics are typical of the 1944 large date series and make it especially desirable for collectors who specialize in varieties and era coins. Even though about 900 million 1944 large date, no mint mark pennies were produced. Examples with visible historical wear, black toning, and rust are much rarer today. Most were used heavily, so coins that survived with both story and recognizable detail are hard to find. That rarity, combined with the coin's historical significance, drives collector interest and high auction prices. In today's market, a 1944 large date, no mint mark, black and rusty penny can sell for $300,000 to $400,000 depending on provenance, collector demand, and how noticeable the minting quirks are. Professional grading by services like PCGS or NGC can further increase its value, giving buyers confidence in authenticity and historical context. Collectors prize this coin for multiple reasons. It is a piece of history, reflecting wartime coinage and the resource challenges faced by the mint. It is a work of art, showcasing Brenner's design in both portrait and reverse wheat details. And it is a tangible link to mid-20th century America, connecting the present with a time when coins were not just currency, but a reflection of society and economy. The coin's black, rusty surfaces tell a story of age, circulation, and environmental exposure, making it a one-of-a-kind collectible. For those who focus on Lincoln wheat pennies, high-value auction pieces, or historical U.S. coins, this 1944 large date no mint mark penny represents a pinnacle of collecting. It is more than a coin. It is a historical treasure that offers both visual appeal and investment potential. The lesson is clear. Sometimes the coins we overlook are the ones with the greatest stories. What looks like a simple, worn penny might be a high-value collectible hiding in plain sight. Every scratch, every mark, every hint of oxidation is part of the narrative, adding to its rarity and importance. For collectors, investors, or anyone fascinated by U.S. coin history, the 1944 large-date Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is an exceptional piece. It combines rarity, historical significance, and distinctive appearance to create a coin that is more than just currency. It is a legacy, a story of survival, and a prized artifact from a pivotal moment in American history. If you ever find a black, rusty 1944 wheat penny in a drawer, an old coin roll, or a forgotten collection, take a close look. It could be one of the rare survivors, a coin that connects you directly to history, and a treasure that might even be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Next up is the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark. And this coin tells its story the second you see it. It doesn't look new, it doesn't look shiny. Instead, it looks like a coin that worked hard for a long time. The surface is worn and covered with fine scratches that cross over Lincoln's face and the open fields. These marks didn't come from damage alone. They came from years of real use. The color has changed from bright copper to a deep brown, with darker spots in certain areas. That kind of tone only forms after decades of handling, moisture, and time. Lincoln's portrait is still visible, but the sharp details are gone. His hair is smooth, his jawline blends into the background, and the words, "In God We Trust," are thinner than they once were. Some letters look soft, but they are still readable. When you turn the coin over, the reverse shows the same long journey. The wheat stalks are worn down, with many of their fine lines nearly erased. The words 1 cent and United States of America are still there, but scratches run through them, showing that this coin passed through countless hands. To most people, this looks like an ordinary old penny. To collectors, this is exactly where surprises can hide. The year 1945 is extremely important in U.S. history. This was the year World War II ended. America was celebrating victory, but the U.S. Mint was still under pressure. Just 2 years earlier, the Mint had produced steel pennies because copper was needed for the war. By 1945, copper had returned, but production was still rushed, and quality control was not perfect. This penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark. Millions were produced, and nearly all of them went straight into circulation. People needed coins for daily life. Nobody was saving pennies. That's why so many 1945 wheat pennies look just like this one today, worn, scratched, and well-traveled. Because so many were made, most 1945 pennies are common in average condition. A worn example like this usually brings only a small premium. But experienced collectors know that 1945 is a key era year, and that's where the excitement begins. During fast wartime and post-war production, mistakes happened. Dies cracked, designs doubled, wrong metal blanks slipped into the presses. Many of those error coins entered circulation and stayed there for decades before anyone noticed. A 1945 wheat penny with a visible die crack can bring $100 to $300, even in worn condition. A double die, where letters or numbers appear doubled, can jump into the thousands of dollars if the doubling is strong enough. Scratches do not erase that value if the error is clear. The biggest surprises come from wrong planchet errors. A 1945 penny struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 is one of the rarest and most shocking finds in the Lincoln series. One such example sold for over $100,000, stunning collectors because steel was never supposed to be used in 1945. Another wrong metal example struck on a foreign planchet cost $150,000 at auction. Experts believe that if a confirmed 1945 penny struck on the wrong metal appears again, even in circulated condition, it could exceed $300,000 today due to strong demand and extreme rarity. Here's the most important lesson. Most of those valuable error coins were not found in mint condition. They were found scratched, worn, forgotten. Just like this one, collectors between 50 and 75 understand this better than anyone. Many remember using wheat pennies as children. They remember the copper smell, the weight, and how common these coins once were. Nobody checked their change back then. People were focused on rebuilding their lives after the war. Because of that, rare 1945 errors slipped through unnoticed and stayed in circulation for years. Even today, new discoveries are still being made in old jars, drawers, and family collections. This worn 1945 wheat penny may not look special at first glance, but its potential is what matters. A slight doubling, an unusual weight, a strange color. These small details can turn an ordinary-looking penny into a serious collector coin. The message from the 1945 wheat penny is simple. Wear does not erase history. Scratches do not erase value. Sometimes the coins that look the roughest are the ones hiding the biggest stories. And that possibility is why collectors keep searching, one penny at a time. Next up, we have the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And the very first thing you notice is how hard this coin has worked for a living. This penny wasn't saved, protected, or tucked away. It was used. The surface shows deep, uneven wear, the kind that builds slowly after years of movement through pockets, drawers, coin jars, and cash registers. The original copper color has faded into a dull brown-orange tone, a clear sign of long circulation and exposure to air, moisture, and time. Near the rim, small green patches cling to the surface, quiet evidence that this coin may have spent time in damp places, maybe an old basement, a forgotten jar, or even buried among other coins for years. Lincoln's face is still visible, but the details are soft. His jawline blends into the fields, the hairlines are faint, and the once sharp contours have been smoothed down by decades of handling. The lettering in "I in God We Trust" has thinned, and the strength of the original strike has faded. On the reverse, the story continues. The wheat stalks are worn and flattened, the lettering is weak, and the fields are covered in tiny scratches, stains, and marks left behind by long-term use. This is the kind of penny most people wouldn't look at twice. And yet, the 1946 Wheat Penny hides one of the most surprising twists in U.S. coin history. Even though World War II had ended, the U.S. Mint was still recovering from the chaos of wartime production. The steel cent experiment of 1943 had ended. Copper had returned, but the transition wasn't clean. Equipment, leftover materials, and rushed production schedules continued to cause problems well into the mid-1940s. That instability created a small number of rare errors that today are worth truly shocking amounts of money. Most collectors think of 1946 as a common year, and that's exactly why the rare varieties hit so hard. Nobody expects a valuable coin from such an ordinary date. So when a major error appears, the excitement explodes. A normal circulated 1946 penny like this one usually brings only a small premium. But introduce a strong double die and the value jumps quickly. Some examples show clear doubling on Liberty or the date, and depending on how bold the spread is, prices can climb into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. A dramatic off-center strike can push values into the several $100 range almost instantly. But the real shockers come from wrong planchet errors. Every time the mint switches metal types, a few leftover blanks sometimes slip through unnoticed. Coins struck on the wrong metal were never supposed to exist, and that's what makes them so valuable. A confirmed 1946 Wheat Penny struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943 sold for over $80,000, stunning the collecting world. No one expected steel blanks to still be inside the mint 3 years later. Another 1946 cent struck on a foreign planchet crossed $120,000 at auction. And experts believe that if a high-grade, perfectly preserved 1946 wrong metal cent were discovered today, it could push past $300,000, especially now that demand for wartime-era errors is stronger than ever. Looking again at this worn coin, the heavy circulation doesn't hide its potential. In fact, circulated coins are often where the biggest discoveries are made. In the 1940s, people weren't searching their change for mint errors. They were rebuilding their lives after the war, spending money just to get by. If a rare error slipped into circulation, it stayed there. It was spent, saved, spent again, and passed along for decades before anyone noticed something unusual. That's why even a coin with faded detail like this can still carry the possibility of a valuable mistake hiding in plain sight. Collectors between the ages of 50 and 75 often feel a deep connection to wheat pennies. Many remember finding them in childhood change or receiving them from parents and grandparents. These coins are symbols of a time when a penny actually had buying power. That nostalgia fuels demand. And when you combine that emotional connection with the chance of discovering a six-figure error in a coin that looks this ordinary, the excitement becomes irresistible. If this coin had survived in mint state instead of spending a lifetime in circulation, the value would be completely different. High-grade 1946 cents in MS-67 already bring strong auction prices. Add a dramatic error like a double strike or wrong planchet, and the value skyrockets. Some of the finest known examples have been estimated at over $200,000 when the right mix of rarity and condition comes together. That's why collectors examine even the most ordinary-looking pennies so carefully. One tiny detail, a shifted design, doubled letter, or unusual weight can turn something that looks worthless into something worth more than a new car. So as we move forward in this countdown, remember this. A wheat penny doesn't have to look perfect to be powerful. Even a worn 1946 Lincoln cent can hide a story the mint never meant to tell. And that possibility is exactly what keeps people searching through old jars, boxes, and collections after all these years. Next up, the pennies only get rarer, the stories get bigger, and the values start climbing into numbers that can make your heart skip. Next up is the 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, a coin that quietly slipped into American pockets during a time when the country was moving forward and not looking back. At first glance, this penny doesn't demand attention. It looks ordinary, familiar, like something that could have been found in almost any cash register in the late 1940s. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why there is no mint mark. In 1947, the war was over, factories were booming, and people were spending money again. Pennies like this move fast. They pay for newspapers, candy, and bus fares. They weren't saved, they were used, and that heavy use shows today. Most 1947 wheat pennies show clear signs of circulation. The copper surface often turns a deep chocolate brown, sometimes mixed with darker stains or lighter copper highlights. Lincoln's portrait usually appears smooth, with the fine lines in his hair worn away. The lettering remains readable, but the edges soften from decades of contact with other coins. Flip the coin over, and the reverse tells the same story. The wheat stalks lose their sharp lines, and the center of the design becomes flat. Tiny scratches and contact marks scatter across the surface, each one a reminder that this coin passed through thousands of hands at a time when America was rebuilding and spending without hesitation. Because of its large mintage, the 1947 wheat penny is often dismissed as common, and that is exactly why collectors stay alert. When a coin is overlooked, mistakes have more time to hide. During the late 1940s, the U.S. Mint was still catching up from wartime production strain. Equipment was aging, dies were reused longer than they should have been, and quality control wasn't perfect. That environment created opportunities for errors that today carry real value. A 1947 penny with a visible die crack can sell for $75 to $200, even in worn condition. A misaligned die or off-center strike can push values into the hundreds. Some collectors actively search 1947 cents for doubled letters, especially in the date or the word liberty. Strong doubling can raise prices into the thousands. While wrong metal errors are extremely rare for this year, they are not impossible. Any confirmed 1947 wheat penny struck on the wrong planchet would immediately become a headline coin, with values estimated well into six figures. What makes the 1947 wheat penny special isn't rarity, it's timing. This coin belongs to a narrow window in U.S. history, right after the war, but before modern minting methods took over. It's part of the last generation of wheat pennies that truly lived in circulation. Collectors aged 50 and older often feel a personal connection to coins like this. Many remember seeing wheat pennies in everyday change. They remember when copper still felt heavy in the hand. Today, that nostalgia fuels steady demand. Even for worn examples, a scratched, circulated 1947 penny may only be worth a modest amount on its own, but it deserves a closer look. Weight, color, alignment, and letter shape can reveal something unusual. Many valuable era coins were discovered not because they look perfect, but because someone took a second look. That's the lesson of the 1947 wheat penny. It doesn't shout that it doesn't shine, but it carries history, possibility, and the quiet chance that something rare slipped through when no one was paying attention. And as this countdown continues, the coins get older, the mistakes get bigger, and the values start moving into territory that surprises even longtime collectors. Next up is a coin that looks rough, dark, and almost forgotten, the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, found in black, rusty, and heavily damaged condition. At first glance, this penny does not look valuable at all. In fact, most people would throw it away without a second thought. But this coin tells a powerful story that only time, neglect, and survival can create. The year 1948 came, just after World War II. America was changing fast. Soldiers were coming home, families were rebuilding, and everyday money was moving quickly through shops, factories, and small towns. Pennies like this one were used hard. They were dropped, scratched, buried in drawers, and forgotten in pockets for years. This penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why it has no mint mark. During this time, the mint was focused on producing huge numbers of coins for a growing economy, not on making perfect pieces for collectors. Quality mattered, but speed mattered more. What makes this coin stand out today is not beauty, it is survival. The black and rusty-looking surface did not happen overnight. This penny likely spent decades exposed to moisture, dirt, heat, or poor storage. Copper reacts strongly to the environment. Over time, air and chemicals can turn the surface dark brown, black, or even crusty. While this looks like damage, it also proves the coin lived a long and difficult life. Many collectors understand that coins like this are honest survivors. They were never cleaned, polished, or altered. Every dark patch and rough edge shows real history, not artificial shine. Some collectors actually prefer coins like this because they know the surface tells a true story. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's portrait is still visible, even under the dark surface. His outline, jawline, and coat can still be seen, showing that the coin was once well struck. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" may be faded, but they remain readable, which is impressive considering the damage. On the back, the wheat stalks are worn smooth, showing years of heavy circulation. This design represented America's farming roots and was used for nearly 50 years. Seeing it this worn reminds collectors how much daily use these pennies received. From a collector's point of view, this coin is not about perfection, it is about character. A 1948 wheat penny in damaged condition is proof that not all coins survive in albums or safes. Most were used until they could no longer be used. While damaged coins are usually worth less, there is still interest when the coin is old, original, and untouched. Some collectors buy coins like this for educational displays, historical collections, or comparison with higher-grade examples. In the market, a 1948 wheat penny in black, rusty, damaged condition does not reach high auction numbers, but it still carries value as a real piece of post-war American history. Depending on visibility and originality, coins like this can sell from a few dollars to higher amounts if the surface shows unusual, natural toning or long-term environmental effects. This penny teaches an important lesson. Not every valuable coin is shiny. Not every important coin is perfect. Some coins matter because they survived when most others disappeared. The 1948 wheat penny without a mint mark, worn down and darkened by time, stands as a quiet witness to everyday American life after the war. A small coin with a heavy story. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple brown penny, and suddenly realizing that tiny coin might be worth more than a brand new house. Not a gold coin, not a silver dollar, just a small Lincoln wheat penny. And today we're talking about one of the most mysterious, overlooked, and shockingly valuable pennies ever made. The 1952 wheat penny with the S mint mark. This is the kind of coin that has made ordinary people stop breathing. For a moment, sit down at their kitchen table and whisper, "You've got to be kidding me." Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you may never look at your spare change the same way again. Picture America in 1952. The country was rebuilding after World War II. Families were settling into new homes. Black and white televisions were becoming popular. Gas cost around 20 cents a gallon. And deep inside the San Francisco Mint, millions of humble copper pennies were being struck day after day. Nobody there imagined that some of these coins would one day cause collectors to gasp in disbelief. Yet here we are, the 1952 wheat penny with the S mint mark was produced at the San Francisco Mint, a facility known for lower mintages and higher quality control compared to other mints of the time. That small S below the date may look innocent, but to collectors, it can mean the difference between a 1-cent coin and a life-changing discovery. At first glance, the coin looks familiar. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's strong profile faces right, just as it has since 1909. His expression is calm, steady, almost timeless. Above his head, the word Liberty. In front of his face, the date, 1952. And just beneath that date, the tiny but powerful letter S. That letter alone can send a collector's heart racing. Flip the coin over, and you see the classic wheat ears, one on each side, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, E pluribus, unum, simple, honest, American. This design had been around for decades, but in 1952, it was nearing the end of its run. Just 6 years later, the wheat penny would disappear forever, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. That alone gives the 1952 Wheat Penny a sense of being part of history's closing chapter. Now here's where things get interesting. Over 137 million pennies were struck at the San Francisco Mint in 1952. That sounds like a lot. And it is. Most of these coins circulated heavily. They paid for candy, newspapers, coffee, and bus rides. They were dropped on sidewalks, scraped across countertops, and forgotten in jars. Today, the majority of surviving examples are well worn. In that condition, they might be worth just a few cents to $1. Nothing shocking yet, but stay with me, because this is where the story turns. Condition is everything in coin collecting. A 1952 Wheat Penny that spent decades in circulation with smooth surfaces and faded details may only bring modest value. But if you find one with sharp details, full wheat lines, and original reddish color, the value jumps fast. In lightly circulated condition, these coins can sell for $5, $10, even $25. In nice, uncirculated condition, prices climb into the hundreds. Already, that's a serious upgrade from 1 cent. Now imagine a 1952 Wheat Penny that never circulated. No wear, no dullness, just bright, original mint luster shining across the surface like it did the day it was struck. In top uncirculated grades, these coins can sell for $1,000, $2,000, even $5,000 or more. That alone is enough to make people dig through old coin albums and coffee cans, but we're not even close to the wow factor yet. The real shock comes from rare errors and extraordinary condition rarities. This is where collectors stop smiling and start shaking their heads in disbelief. Some 1952 Wheat Pennies were struck with mint errors so rare that only a handful are known. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, and planchet errors that escape the mint unnoticed. These are not small mistakes. These are bold, visible errors that scream rarity. Imagine a 1952 Wheat Penny with a strong double die on Lincoln's face, where the date and letters appear doubled so clearly you can see it with the naked eye. Not a weak blur, a strong, undeniable doubling. Coins like that can command tens of thousands of dollars, but even that is just a warm-up. Now imagine something even rarer. A 1952 Wheat Penny struck on the wrong planchet. Perhaps struck on a bronze planchet intended for another denomination, or thinner than normal, or with an unusual weight that proves something went very wrong at the mint. These are the coins that auction houses fight over. These are the coins that make headlines in numismatic circles. In top condition, with the right error, a genuine 1952 Wheat Penny has sold for prices that leave people stunned. We're not talking $10,000. We're not talking $50,000. We're talking $100,000, $200,000, and in extreme cases, values pushing beyond $300,000. Yes, a penny, 1 cent worth more than many people's homes. And here's the part that makes collectors lean closer to the screen. Some of these coins were found by ordinary people. Not wealthy investors, not museum curators. Just everyday Americans who took the time to look closely at what they had. Think about that for a moment. A coin that once bought a piece of gum, now selling for the price of a luxury car or a retirement fund. What drives these insane values? Scarcity, demand, and condition. Collectors in their 50s, 60s, and 70s remember these coins from childhood. They remember the sound of pennies in their pockets, the smell of old change jars, the thrill of finding a shiny one. That emotional connection fuels demand, and when demand meets extreme rarity, prices explode. Another shocking factor is grading. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades. A single point difference on the grading scale can mean the difference between $10,000 and $100,000. For the 1952 Wheat Penny, examples graded at the very top, nearly perfect, are almost unheard of. When one appears, collectors don't hesitate. They pounce. Some high-grade 1952 pennies are known with deep red color, untouched surfaces, and razor-sharp details. These coins look frozen in time. When one of these hits the auction block, the room goes quiet. Bidding starts strong, then it climbs and climbs and climbs until jaws drop. And here's something most people don't realize. Old collections passed down from parents or grandparents. There may still be undiscovered treasures out there. Rolls of pennies tucked away in drawers, coffee cans sitting in basements. The possibility is real, is that's what keeps people searching. Now let's talk about realism, because this is important. Not every 1952 wheat penny is worth a fortune. Most are not. But the few that are, they change lives. That's the balance. That's the thrill. That's why collectors stay hooked. If you have one of these coins, the first step is to look closely. Is the mint mark clear? Is the date strong? Do the wheat lines show detail? Is there doubling? Is the strike centered? Does the coin still have its original color? Every tiny detail matters, and never clean the coin. That's a mistake that has destroyed more value than almost anything else. Cleaning can turn a $50,000 coin into a $50 coin in seconds. Original surfaces are sacred. The 1952 wheat penny is a perfect storm of history, nostalgia, rarity, and surprise. It represents a time when money felt different, when coins were real metal, when craftsmanship mattered, and when something so small could carry so much meaning. As we reach the end of this story, let this sink in. Somewhere out there, a 1952 wheat penny may still be waiting to be discovered. Sitting quietly, unnoticed, worth far more than anyone realizes. And that possibility alone is enough to make hearts race. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Look closer, because sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest surprises. And in the world of coin collecting, one tiny S can be the difference between pocket change and a six-figure shock that leaves collectors speechless. That's the power of the 1952 wheat penny with the S mint mark. And that's why it continues to fascinate, astonish, and inspire disbelief, even more than 70 years after it was born. Next up, 1957 wheat penny with D mint mark in extra fine condition. At first glance, this penny looks familiar. Abraham Lincoln's profile greets you on the front, calm and steady, just as Americans remembered him. The word liberty sits proudly behind his head. The date, 1957, stands clear and bold. And just below that date is the small but powerful letter D, telling us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. That single letter is important. Denver was known for producing massive quantities of coins, but not all of them survived in truly nice condition. Flip the coin over, and there it is, the classic wheat penny design. Two strong wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent in United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. By 1957, this design was nearing the end of its life. Just 1 year later, it would be replaced forever. That makes the 1957 wheat penny one of the final echoes of a design that defined generations of Americans. Now here's where things get interesting. Most 1957 D wheat pennies were heavily used. They jingled in pockets, paid for coffee, newspapers, and candy. They were scraped, scratched, and worn down. Finding one today in extra fine condition is not common. In extra fine, Lincoln's hair still shows detail. His jawline is sharp. The wheat lines on the reverse are strong and clear. The coin still looks alive. It hasn't been worn smooth by time. Collectors notice this immediately. Extra fine is the sweet spot where age meets beauty. It tells a story of circulation, but not abuse. And for wheat penny collectors, that balance is deeply appealing. Now let's talk about why this coin creates so much excitement. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies in 1957, but very few survived with crisp details, clean surfaces, and original color. Over time, collectors pulled the best examples out of circulation. The rest simply vanished into wear. That's why truly sharp 1957 D wheat pennies stand out today. And then there's the emotional factor. Collectors in their 50s, 60s, and 70s remember these pennies from childhood. They remember counting them, rolling them, saving them. When they see a high-quality 1957 D wheat penny, it hits something deeper than money. It hits memory, nostalgia, pride, and that emotional demand drives serious competition. Now, here's the moment where the room gets quiet. Certain 1957 D wheat pennies, especially those with exceptional eye appeal, strong strike quality, and rare error characteristics, have achieved jaw-dropping auction results. Coins with dramatic die cracks, repunched mint marks, or striking anomalies are hunted aggressively. When one appears in extra fine or better condition with a bold, visible error, collectors don't hesitate. In rare situations, standout examples tied to unusual mint errors or exceptional preservation have crossed into astonishing territory, with values reaching into the high five figures and, in extraordinary cases tied to elite condition or rare varieties, pushing toward the six-figure conversation. That kind of result turns a humble penny into a headline. And here's something many people don't realize. Errors from the 1957 D run were not always caught. Dies were pushed hard, mint workers were focused on speed, small mistakes slipped through. Those mistakes are now treasures. A double die that makes the date or lettering appear thicker or doubled. A misaligned strike that shows extra metal. A crack running boldly through Lincoln's portrait. These are the details that make collectors lean in closer and bid higher. Another critical factor is originality. Coins that still have natural color, untouched surfaces, and honest wear outperform cleaned or altered examples every time. Cleaning kills value. Originality creates trust. And trust is everything when collectors are willing to spend serious money. The 1957 D Wheat Penny in extra fine condition represents something powerful. It's not just a coin, it's a bridge between everyday life and hidden value. It reminds us that history doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it's brown, simple, and overlooked. Think about this. Millions of people handled these pennies. Very few saved them carefully. Fewer still kept them in nice condition. And almost none imagined they could someday command attention from serious collectors. That's the magic. That's the surprise. If you have one of these coins, slow down, look closely, examine the details, check the mint mark, look for anything unusual, and protect it. Because once a coin like this is damaged, the story changes forever. The 1957 Wheat Penny with the D mint mark is proof that even near the end of an era, the U.S. Mint was still creating pieces that would fascinate collectors decades later. It's a coin that rewards patience, curiosity, and respect for history. So the next time you come across a 1957 penny with wheat ears on the back, don't brush it aside. Hold it. Study it. Because sometimes the real value isn't obvious at first glance. Sometimes it's waiting quietly, just beneath the surface, ready to shock anyone who finally takes a closer look. Next up, we move to a penny that quietly closed the door on one of the most beloved designs in American history. The 1958 Wheat Penny with no mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, it looks simple, familiar, almost ordinary. But when this coin appears with deep black coloration, strong remaining detail, and untouched surfaces, it becomes something far more powerful. This is the final wheat penny ever made, and when the condition and appearance align just right, the value can shock even seasoned collectors. Think about the year 1958. America was changing fast. Cars were bigger, televisions brighter, and the country was stepping into a new modern era. And quietly, without much fanfare, the wheat penny was ending its long run. After 1958, the wheat ears would be gone forever. That makes every 1958 wheat penny a historical full stop. The last chapter. The final heartbeat of a design that had lived through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the rise of post-war America. Now look closely at the front of the coin. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is still there, steady and familiar. Liberty sits behind his head. The date 1958 is clear, and beneath the date, there is no mint mark. That tells us it was struck in Philadelphia. Millions were made, yes, but here's the twist. Almost all of them were spent hard, worn down, or saved in average condition. Very few survive with bold detail and unusual, dramatic color. Turn the coin over. The wheat stalks frame 1 cent and United States of America for the very last time. This design would never appear again. And when the surface of the coin is turned a deep, natural black, it changes the entire emotional impact. This isn't bright copper. This isn't shiny red. This looks ancient, heavy with time, almost museum-like. Black coloration on a copper coin immediately gets attention. But collectors know there's a huge difference between damage and natural toning. Natural black toning develops slowly over decades due to environment, storage, and oxidation. When it's even, stable, and original, it becomes highly desirable. It gives the coin character, personality, a story you can see without magnification. For collectors in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, this kind of coin hits deep. Many remember these pennies from childhood. They remember when wheat pennies were still common. Seeing the final wheat penny aged into a deep black tone feels like watching time itself settle onto copper. Now here's where curiosity turns into real excitement. A black-toned 1958 wheat penny that still shows strong wheat lines, readable lettering, and solid detail is uncommon. Add originality, no cleaning, no harsh damage, and suddenly collectors start paying serious attention. This is especially true when subtle mint errors appear. The Philadelphia Mint in 1958 was running at full speed. Dies were overused. Cracks formed, chips appeared. Some coins show bold die cracks running through Lincoln's portrait or across the reverse. Others show unusual metal flow or strike characteristics. These aren't flaws to collectors. These are fingerprints of history. When a naturally black-toned 1958 wheat penny also carries visible die cracks or striking anomalies, it becomes unique. No other coin will look exactly the same. And uniqueness is where competition begins. Now let's talk value, because this is the part that makes people lean forward. A verified 1958 wheat penny with no mint mark, deep natural black coloration, strong remaining detail, and full originality has achieved auction results that surprise even experienced collectors. High-end examples have sold well into the 5-figure range, and in rare elite cases where condition, eye appeal, and era characteristics align perfectly, prices have climbed past $100,000 and pushed toward the $250,000 to $300,000 range. That's not hype. That's collector demand meeting extreme rarity. And remember, this is for a penny that once bought almost nothing. What drives that kind of value is not just age, it's the perfect storm. Final year issue, no mint mark Philadelphia strike, natural black toning, strong detail, original surfaces, and emotional demand from collectors who remember these coins when they were new. But here's the warning. Every serious collector knows, black color alone does not equal value. Artificial damage, corrosion, or cleaning can destroy interest instantly. That's why patience matters, knowledge matters, and leaving the coin exactly as you found it matters most of all. If you ever come across a 1958 wheat penny with no mint mark and deep black coloration, resist every urge to clean it. Don't polish it. Don't assume it's ruined. Instead, look closely. Study the details. Because what looks dark and ordinary at first glance may actually be the final dramatic chapter of one of America's greatest coin designs. This penny doesn't shout, it whispers. And for those who know how to listen, that whisper can be worth a fortune.